Hi, everybody. You are here with me live. Just say hello in the chat box. I need to know that you can actually hear me okay and see me okay. That would be really, really great. So just let me know that before we get started. Yay. Hi, Sarah. I'm just going to give it a minute or so before we officially start, just so I can welcome some people into the room. Okay, great. Sounds great. Okay, perfect. I'm always hesitant. You're just talking away and you're like, can people even hear me? Okay, great. Thanks, Alana. I really appreciate it. Jason, hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me tonight and sharing your evening with me. We are going to dive into some really juicy topics tonight. You're going to learn a lot, and I really hope that you're going to come away with some really great information that you can implement basically starting today. So I'm going to switch over to my slides real quick. I'm going to put those up, and I think they're already up. This is a new platform for me, so bear with me as I'm using this. So I just want to make sure that you guys can actually see that. I think so. Can you guys see the slides there? It always looks different on my end than it does on your end. So I just want to make sure we are good there. I believe the slides are up, correct? Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, I did it. Okay, perfect. All right, I think they're up now. I hit start. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, everybody, for your patience. I think we've got the slides up there on the screen now, and I'm sure we'll have more people joining us. And again, thanks everyone for being with me tonight. I'm really excited to dive into our stress and sleep topic tonight. We're talking about stress, sleep, CBD, and I'm going to share some really great information about overall hormones and just some really great tips that you can implement for optimizing your sleep, because sleep is really important. If you're not sleeping, you're not healing. And it's such a nasty cycle we get into with lack of sleep causing more stress and more stress causing lack of sleep. So we're going to talk all about that tonight. And so before we officially dive in, I want to share a little bit about who I am and what I do. If you are new to my me and my brand, perhaps, and maybe you're familiar with me on Instagram, or maybe you even tune into my podcast, the Wellness Switch podcast. But if you aren't familiar with who I am, my name is Samantha Gladish. I am an online nutritionist. I'm really a hormone nutritionist specializing in women's hormonal health. And hormones mean a lot of things. Primarily my expertise and focus is in metabolic wellness. And what that really encompasses is thyroid health, adrenal health, and those are really the areas that I focus on, and incorporating nutrition into all aspects of that. I also host the Wellness Switch podcast, so maybe you're familiar with it, maybe not. It used to be called Healthy Hormones for Women, and we just did a rebrand on it, so it's called Wellness Switch. You can find that on any major podcast platform. I'm also the author of the book called The 30-Day Hormone Solution. So that is like my book baby. It's loaded with 60 delicious gluten-free, grain-free recipes. And I love to cook and I love to bake. And I consider myself a baking enthusiast. You can find me in my spare time in the kitchen, baking up all kinds of delicious treats that are gluten-free, sugar-free, and just healthified. I'm also a cat lover. I've got 2 cats actually scratching at the door right now. Every time I go live on some sort of webinar or anything, they're always right there. So I love them so much, and they're just so fun and crazy. We've got 2 Bengals. They're like Asian leopards. And man, they are like super, super busy. So that's just a little bit about me. And like I said, we're going to dive in tonight to about stress and adrenal health. And so I think it's important to start with, if we're going to talk about stress, I feel like we can't really move forward until we really understand adrenals and where they're really located. I think understanding a bit of that physiology can be really helpful. And so perhaps you are familiar with the term adrenals. Maybe you've heard the term adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout. And, that's a term that we hear often in like the health and wellness space. And so your adrenals are these tiny little glands. They are tiny but mighty. They sit on top of your kidneys. So you can see them there in this image. And they really are involved in your stress response. They play a huge part in your nervous system. And you're probably familiar with the term cortisol, your stress hormone. And cortisol is a really important hormone. I think that cortisol gets a really bad rap. A lot of us are, in this mindset that cortisol is bad, but we need cortisol in order to function. We really couldn't survive without cortisol. It's a really important hormone. The thing is, we don't want too much of it. We don't want it to be too low. We just want it to be just right, just like all of our hormones, right? So cortisol is this really smart, no nonsense, strategic thinking hormone. So if, for example, you are driving along in your car on a sunny afternoon, you're pumping the tunes and you're feeling really great and you're in a good mood and just the sun is shining and you feel at ease, you feel good, you feel happy, and you're driving along and all of a sudden you see this like crazy person driving towards you. They are really out of control and it looks like they're going to hit you. Well, what's going to happen? Your nervous system is going to be alerted, and what's going to happen is you're going to secrete cortisol and adrenaline. And that's a good thing. And in a situation like that, that's potentially life-threatening, cortisol and adrenaline are going to help you think really quickly. They're going to increase your blood sugar. It's going to help with heightened memory and attention. It's going to increase your blood pressure. It's also going to decrease your sensitivity to pain, and it will decrease your serotonin, your happy hormone, because let's face it, in a situation like that, we're not happy, we are on alert, and it's a threat, and we got to figure it out, right? We got to figure out that situation. And it will also suppress your immune system. So that's a normal stress response. Something acute happens, you got to figure it out and deal with it in the moment. So we want cortisol and adrenaline working for us in a situation like that. However, we are dealing with these everyday stressors of bills and kids and family and work and jobs and bosses that we don't like and debt and all sorts of things, right? No sleep, thinking about retirement, all sorts of things that's showing up for us. Our health, if we are experiencing, some sort of dis-ease or some sort of debilitating symptom of some sort, there's a lot that's going to be causing stress. And even just the things like the simple things, having a to-do list with 20 different things on there that you got to do around the house and whatnot, and with your kids and with your family for the weekend. That is a stressor. When it really comes down to how you're reacting to these things. And so what happens is, we have a to-do list of all these, 30 different things on there, and our bodies can't actually differentiate between a to-do list of 30 things or a potential threat like a car accident or something like that. Our bodies don't know the difference. They're just like, this is stress and this is stress. And so we got to react. We got to shoot at some cortisol. We got to shoot at some adrenaline because this person's got chores to do and bills to pay and kids to feed. And like, they're really stressed right now. So our body doesn't know the difference. And so what happens is our modern lifestyle causes our adrenals to really oversecrete these hormones, to oversecrete hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And eventually our adrenal glands really become fatigued. They become exhausted in a sense from this constant overfiring. So I'm curious if anybody here, I'm going to come back to the chat here. If anybody is familiar with the term adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout, is anybody maybe experiencing that right now? If so, I'd love it if you can share it with me in the chat box. Maybe let me know like what's been showing up for you. If you've really been feeling burnt out and exhausted and just really tired, share that with me in the chat box. Basically what's happening, it's not that the adrenals are fatigued per se. What's happening is that our adrenal glands are communicating with our brain, and our brain is getting this sort of this notification of like, oh, there's a stressor going on. Oh, okay, there's bills, there's a to-do list, there's kids, there's work, there's travel, there's right. And we're constantly telling the brain, hey, I've got all this stuff going on, all this stuff going on. Send me some cortisol, send me some adrenaline. And there's this constant overfiring, the brain saying, okay, adrenals, here's the hormones. Oh, you need more? Okay, here's some more. Oh, you again? Okay, here you go. And really what happens is over time, our brain is going to kind of shut off that communication to the adrenals. The adrenals will be in a threatened situation and ask the brain for those, the adrenals will ask the brain for those hormones. And at some point, the brain's going to be like, no, you ask me for this way too often. I'm so tired. We got to like shut down this communication. And so this is where the fatigue and the exhaustion really starts to come on board because of the miscommunication that's happening. Jason said, I did a saliva test. I have adrenal fatigue. Okay. Yeah. There's so many different tests that you can do. And I think it's great that you dove into that. And, I have been exhausted and super stressed. I think I may be. Carla, I'm not sure. Are there symptoms for adrenal fatigue other than fatigue? Yes, we're going to dive into that in one second. That's a really great question. So chronic adrenal stress over time, it's going to have a major impact on our immunity. And what this can lead to potentially is developing chronic inflammation and autoimmunity. And, you know, I have autoimmune Hashimoto's. I was diagnosed back in 2017. Autoimmunity runs in my family. My mother has an autoimmune condition. My grandmother did. And all my female cousins on my mother's side all have an autoimmune condition. So there's definitely a genetic disposition there, but lifestyle plays a role. Gut imbalances can play a role. There's a lot of things that impact our immune system. And like I said, with our everyday modern lifestyle, you know, having a to-do list with, 30 things on it. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm running an online business. I'm working with my clients. I'm running a podcast. I'm writing a book. Like I got all these things on the go. And as much as I love my work, it can be a lot at times. And then the body just becomes chronically stressed and chronically depleted. And this autoimmune picture can really start to show up. So I've been there and I know what it feels like. And in 2017, when I had that diagnosis, I was not feeling so hot and I couldn't sleep. I was having like inflammation in my hands and I couldn't really grip like weights when I would go to weight train. Brain fog, my weight was just fluctuating. My digestion was sluggish. I was getting a lot of headaches and a lot of symptoms started to show up for me. So I really had to address my stress, both acute stress and both chronic stress. So, and when I say address, there's lifestyle things that we can implement, which I'm going to talk about today, but it's also, the emotional component and really learning how to let go of things and not be so reactive to things. The problem is when we are in a highly stressed state, it's very easy to be reactive to things and emotional. So there's different types of stress. There is acute stress, and this is really, the things that are going to affect almost everyone from time to time, if not sometimes on the daily. And it relates to things and events that are more present or in the near future, like maybe in the next 3 to 6 months, maybe you're planning a really big move or selling your house or retirement, and planning for that. There's all sorts of acute stressors that happen, but these are stressors, for example, I wrote here, running late for work or forgetting an important appointment. These can be acute stressors. They're things that just happen in the moment, but our body can actually get over them really quickly. We let them go. They don't linger around too much and we just kind of move on from them. But then there's the chronic stress, and it's the stress that builds up when we are exposed to high pressure situations over a very long period of time. One of the biggest things that I've always seen with my clients over the years is their job, right? Going to work Monday through Friday and hating their job, just not being inspired, not being excited, not getting along with their boss, hating the work that they're doing. And can you imagine doing that 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years? That's chronic stress, right? So once we get into this chronic stress mindset, it can really start to result in feelings of anxiety or even depression. And the symptoms that can arise. So Patty, you're asking about the symptoms for adrenal fatigue other than fatigue. There's a lot of symptoms that can really show up here. So anxiety and depression, yes, but we're also going to start seeing issues like sluggish digestion, so more bloating and digestive problems going on, headaches and potentially migraines, muscle tension and pain, things like heart disease, memory, concentration impairment, a potential heart attack, high blood pressure, stroke, sleep problems, weight gain, and hormonal imbalances. So hormonal imbalances mean a lot of things. When I speak of hormonal imbalances, that can be numerous things from PMS and your stress making PMS worse and PMS symptoms worse, like cramps and headaches, and moodiness. Stress can also make menopause symptoms worse as well. Thyroid, which we're going to dive into in 1 second. I really wanted to talk briefly about the thyroid because it really connects with adrenal health and stress. So there's a lot of imbalances that can show up here, and symptoms that are related to adrenal fatigue. So I mentioned the thyroid, and it's really important to talk about this because it is involved in every metabolic process in your body, okay? Everything the thyroid is involved in. And it's this butterfly-shaped gland in the base of your neck, and your adrenals and your thyroid are very much connected. So I'd also love to hear from you guys in the chat if anybody's ever been diagnosed with low thyroid or Hashimoto's, and you have had maybe thyroid issues going on in the past or currently. It's very, very common. This is probably one of the biggest things we see in our practice with, our coaches and all of our clients, is that they're seeing a lot of clients that are dealing with low thyroid function, with hypothyroidism. And so the thyroid, it really regulates so many vital bodily functions, from your heart rate to your body temperature. So if you've got like cold hands and feet, that can often be a sign of low thyroid. If your heart rate is very low, or the opposite, it could be racing where you have hyperthyroid. Muscle strength can be impacted. Your body weight can really be in flux. Your menstrual cycle can be impacted by your thyroid. You could have either very short or very long menstrual cycle, so very irregular. Your nervous system, cholesterol levels, as well as your breathing. Okay, so there's a lot of things here. Okay, Lori, you're saying you have a growth on yours. Okay, so a lot of strategies that you can really implement here to stop the progression of that. And of course, having a conversation with your doctor around that is going to be really, really important. But the thyroid is so important. And you might be thinking, like, we're talking about stress. Why would we be talking about the thyroid as well? Because stress shuts down the thyroid, okay? And we want our thyroid to be functioning as optimal as possible, because when it's in balance, and this goes for both men and women, we are going to feel energetic, healthy, slim, happy, sexy. We'll have a healthy metabolism, like weight won't be an issue. We will sleep deeply. Our digestion will be flowing, and the thyroid plays a huge role in reproduction and fertility health, okay? So when we have chronic stress, it basically impacts the thyroid hormones, T4 and T3. Those get affected. And when those hormones get impacted, it actually starts to impact the immune system, and it suppresses the immune system. And then we have this slow production of thyroid hormone overall. And it's just this nasty cycle. And it just keeps going and going, and you just can't produce enough thyroid hormone, and you can't get it into the cell, and now your immune system is suppressed, and then all of those metabolic functions with fertility and your menstrual cycle and your nervous system and sleep, you start to experience all these symptoms around that. No fun, right? So when you are in a stressed state, the adrenals will be up and the thyroid will be down. You actually can't have both functioning at the same time. So if you are in a stress state right now and you are like, go, 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 type A personality, not stopping, not taking time for yourself, no self-care, not sleeping well, it means your thyroid is also being impacted. Not on top of all those other things that I mentioned, right? With your heart health and brain health and memory, cholesterol, all of those things are being impacted on top of your thyroid. So this is where we start to hear things like, oh yeah, you're just aging, you're just getting older and that's what's happening. It's like, sure, maybe, yeah, I'm getting older, but there's an underlying root cause here and there's stress going on here and it's starting this cascade effect and impacting everything else. So if you have a low functioning thyroid, if you have low thyroid output and hypothyroidism, it means you have high functioning adrenals. It means your stress is very high. Okay. So let's kind of paint this picture because this is what I see very often in our practice is, okay, so we have a woman that comes to us with stress, right? And that could show up in either physical, emotional, or chemical. Okay. There could be any one of those or all three of them. And when we have this stress, our body is going to release cortisol, the stress hormone, to deal with that stress. And when that cortisol gets released, it decreases your thyroid output. So the cortisol is high, the stress is high, the thyroid goes low, and now you start to have low thyroid function, low digestive function, PMS symptoms or menopause symptoms, and low serotonin, which is your happy hormone. So you go to the doctor and you're like, Doc, I'm gaining weight. I feel bloated. My hair is falling out. I have cold hands and cold feet. My cycle's all over the place. I feel so moody and irritable. I'm snapping at my partner all the time. What's going on? And what happens? The doctor hands you some antacids, Synthroid, a sleep remedy, birth control pill, antidepressants, and sends you on your way. That doesn't fix anything, right? It's just a Band-Aid approach. It's not getting to the root of why these symptoms are really showing up. So any questions? Is anybody like, oh my God, you're scaring me. This is crazy. Is this maybe giving you some aha moments or helping you to connect the dots with anything? I'd love to hear from you. You can share that in the chat box with me. And of course, if you have questions, please go ahead. So now we're going to dive into stress and sleep and talk about the connection here because it's very interconnected. Now, I think it's pretty obvious if we have high stress going on, we're not going to be sleeping, right? We're going to have lack of sleep because our brains are going to be busy. That cortisol and that adrenaline is going to be pumping. And you might feel tired, but actually getting to sleep and really relaxing is very hard for you. So when we have high stress, we're going to have lack of sleep. And then we're going to feel very easily agitated because I don't know how you guys function on lack of sleep, but for me, it ain't pretty. Like I need my sleep. I can get really moody. It's really important that I get my 8 to 9 hours. Yes, 8 to 9 hours. It is very important that I get that. I find that, it's one thing if I can get like 7, but if I get 7 consistently, I actually do not feel rested. It's closer to that 8 and 9 hour mark for me specifically. So when we have this lack of sleep, we're going to feel easily agitated. It's going to impact our emotional well-being. And it's also going to start impacting our overall health and increasing inflammation in the body. And this is actually going to start impairing cognitive function. And here we have this really nasty cycle, right? High stress, can't sleep, right? Wired but tired is exactly what I was going to say. And it's really not a fun combination for sure. The other thing that starts to happen here is that when we have this high cortisol output, this high stress output, cortisol actually speaks with our insulin. And insulin is such an important hormone. It's actually a fat storing hormone. A lot of people think when they hear insulin, they're like, oh, well, I'm not a diabetic, so that has nothing to do with me. But that's not the case. We all have insulin. We're all impacted by insulin. And insulin is a hormone that gets secreted. So when you eat sugar and carbohydrates, your insulin releases, it goes to take that sugar and it goes to put it into your cell and stores it so you have energy for later. And so what happens is when you have a lot of cortisol and you're really stressed, it's going to cause you to secrete more insulin. And then you're going to have these blood sugar highs and lows and this roller coaster, more cravings. It's going to start impacting your heart health, weight gain, cavities. You're going to have more liver and kidney issues. And it really does begin this nasty cycle. And the thing here too is that when we get lack of sleep and we're not getting that good quality rest, that alone is a stressor to the body. And I don't know about you guys, but when I don't sleep well and I feel stressed, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not like, oh, I'm going to have a delicious green smoothie and a yummy kale salad today. I'm like, no, give me coffee. I want carbs. I want to eat pizza. I want pasta. Like, that's what we want. I want chocolate, right? I'm sure you guys can relate. When we are depleted and we are exhausted, I'm sure we're not reaching for the kale salad. We're reaching for the not so good food, or we're reaching for things like wine at night, to feel like it's calming us down and winding us down, when it's actually the complete opposite. So this is really the cycle that starts to happen. And I really wanted to paint this picture for you today because it's so important to see it and understand it in this way, because when we know better, we can do better. Okay. So prolonged stress levels have been correlated with a decreased sleep duration, so less sleep. And then it also reduces our REM sleep and our deep sleep. And that is really important, because that deep sleep and that REM, that's when your body is repairing. That's when your brain is repairing. That's where you're detoxing and cleansing and rejuvenating. So we really want to manage our stress so we can get into those delta waves when we sleep, because that's when we're going to actually feel very rested and rejuvenated. And then, of course, prolonged stress levels will lead to poor quality sleep, impaired memory, poor mood regulation, and all of this in turn is just going to lead to more stress. It's just a really nasty cycle. Okay, so let's talk about the things that are actually impairing your sleep, because there's a few of them and you may not like what I have to say, but I really want to be honest with you, and we've just got to be honest with ourselves. If these are some of the habits that we are continuing with, it's going to impact your health long term. So we've got to get honest with ourselves. And if these are some of the things we need to start eliminating, then so be it, because you deserve to feel your absolute best and have vitality and have great sleep and healthy libido and metabolism, all of that. And so these things that I'm about to dive into could be impacting all of that. Number one, yes, it's alcohol. So it really impacts those delta waves. It will not allow you to get into that deep sleep. Terry is asking, what is the best measurement for REM sleep? I have 2 different apps and they vary a lot. Yeah, that's a great question. I do wear the Oura ring, and that's how I track mine. So it's a ring that tracks your deep sleep and your heart rate variability and all that fun stuff. And it connects to an app. And then in the morning, I just, look at the numbers and whatnot. It tracks your activity level, all sorts of things. So this is what I use. I really don't know how accurate everything is. My husband has one as well. And so we always compare, from what I've been able to just based symptomatically how I feel and looking at the app, it pretty much does go hand in hand. It also does now track your cycle and your body temperature. And then I also track my body temperature separately. So it's interesting to see what I track separately pretty much shows up on what the app is showing me. So it does seem to be fairly accurate, but I don't know about many other apps that are available. I'm just familiar with the Oura Ring. But find something. I think it would be important to find something that you could, get some sort of data. That would be really helpful and important for sure. So alcohol, I mentioned earlier that, really is going to impact how you get into deep sleep. So if you could limit your alcohol, or perhaps maybe you need to go on an alcohol detox, because why not try it, no alcohol for 30 days and see how you feel, and see how your sleep is, and see how your skin health improves, how your inflammation decreases, how your emotional well-being, all these things get impacted, your brain health, your memory, all of it is impacted by alcohol. It really does impair the liver from detoxing, and your liver is involved in detoxing your hormones, and it plays a huge role in hormonal balance. So if you are winding down at night with alcohol, I'm going to encourage you to change that up for chamomile tea, something else that's actually going to be very calming. We feel sometimes that alcohol is calming, but it's actually not. It's actually stimulating the nervous system more than anything. Okay. And also we feel like we're passing out sometimes from drinking, but it's not a deep sleep. Okay. Next up is blue light and technology. Are you sending out information that you are covering in this webinar? I'm sure we can probably send out the slides or the recording if anybody wants it. Finn, if you're here, you can maybe answer that question. But if that's what you mean, Carla, we could probably send this out for you. No problem if you wanted to like watch a replay of it. So blue light technology, your tech platforms, your phone, your iPad, your computer. I call this junk light. Just like we have junk food, this is junk light. And this junk light is actually decreasing your serotonin, which is your happy hormone, and it's decreasing your melatonin, which is your sleepy hormone. And what are we often doing at night? We're sitting on the couch, we're on our devices, we are on our phones, we're lying in bed, we're reading things on our Kindle, which I'm not sure too much about the Kindle in terms of the light quality on there, but in our house, we have a no technology rule in the bedroom. No phones are allowed in the bedroom, no iPads, no nothing like that. Like our bedroom is a peaceful space. I keep it very clean because for me, like I can't have all this clutter around because it doesn't help me to relax. So our bedroom is just like very simple. I don't use an alarm clock. And, yes, based on my schedule and the work that I do from home, I don't need an alarm clock. If there's something like, I'm waking up super early to catch a flight or something like that, I will use my phone as the alarm. But it's always in airplane mode, but we do not keep our phones or any electronic devices in the bedroom. So again, I really encourage that. If you're using your phone as an alarm, go buy a $10 alarm clock and use that instead, okay? It makes a huge difference. These devices are impacting brain health and again, your hormones. And so over time, it really is going to add up. So something that you could definitely this is a simple switch, and maybe it may not sound so easy at first, but truly it is such a powerful switch and a really easy switch to make, okay? Patty, yeah, a recording would be awesome. Oh, no problem. Sounds great. And Eatonham said they are going to send out the slides, so that is perfect. Okay, sugar, carbohydrates, we've got to be conscious of our intake because they're very, very stimulating. And I'm not against sugar. It's just we want to get sugar in the right form. So getting like fiber-rich carbohydrates in from your sweet potato or plantain or squashes, that's going to be amazing for you. And fresh fruit, that's where we want to be getting our carbohydrates from. And of course, having the indulgence and a sweet treat here and there is totally okay. It's just when we are overdoing it. And when I speak about carbohydrates or when I speak about sugar in general, a lot of us think of things like donuts and cookies and cakes and desserts. And yes, that's true. That's sugar. But quinoa, bread, rice, pasta, like all of that is still carbohydrates. So if you are loading up on that, and that's what, primarily your plate is full of, you are going to impact the insulin. Okay. You're going to drive that insulin up, and insulin and cortisol communicate. So when that insulin goes up, it causes a stress response in the body, and the cortisol will go up. So we really want to be conscious of the quality and the types of sugars and the carbohydrates we're eating, okay? Like I said earlier in the very beginning, I'm a baking enthusiast. If you guys are looking for healthy dessert recipes, I have plenty of them. I will share more information about my Instagram account at Holistic Wellness Foodie. At the end, you can definitely come connect with me and follow me there. But I have tons of great recipes. And for me, a big thing with our clients and with the women that we work with in our practice, and just for me in my everyday life, like I never want to feel restricted and I never want to feel deprived. I want to enjoy food, and I want everybody to enjoy food. And there's the way that we can do that also optimizes our hormonal health. Okay, next up is, this isn't necessarily sugar, but yes, it is. This is gluten and wheat. So this can really cause a lot of digestive distress, and then which can lead to a lot of inflammation, a lot of immune issues. And so if you have, that going on, if you have the inflammation going on, gut issues going on, it's going to actually impact your sleep because your body can't fully rest It's trying to work on all of these other things and healing all these other things. So we really want to allow the body an opportunity to like rest and digest. So getting rid of these things that can be really hard to break down and can be very inflammatory in the body. Also, grains specifically, they do have an affinity for the thyroid. So if you do have a lot of thyroid issues going on, I suggest just really limiting your grain intake. And again, it doesn't mean, you can never have it again. But initially, while we're trying to really bring about healing and transformation to the body, we want to eliminate some of these things that can be quite problematic. And you especially don't want to be eating these things right before bed. Because they're just very heavy. And again, it will spike your insulin and it will cause your cortisol and your stress response to go up. So again, just being conscious of this. Next up is coffee. Now, I love my coffee. My coffee, 1 cup a day. It's important to me. It's like a ritual in the morning. It's very ceremonial for me. I get up. I drink my water, I eat, I will often either eat breakfast or have like some bone broth, and then I will go and have coffee. It's not the first thing that I have. I don't recommend that for anybody here. You are waking up and your body's in a fasting state. You want to feed your body nutrients. You do not want to give your body caffeine, which actually stimulates your adrenaline. You're doing that first thing in the morning. We don't want to do that. Okay. So we want to love on our adrenal glands, on the nervous system. We really want to support that. And caffeine is fine. It's just make sure you eat first and then have it. And then also, if you're having sleep issues, don't have your caffeine so late in the day. Okay. That's what we really want to be conscious of. And then news, being conscious of not watching the news before bed because it's very stimulating. Also, the blue light as well. You get the blue light off of your TV. So make sure you're like at a distance and you're not super close. And it's stressful, right? It's stressful to be watching the news. So it's always bad news. So we want to be conscious of what we are filling our minds with before we go to bed and being in a state of calm as much as possible. So now I want to share some better sleep strategies with you. Okay. So number 1 is to dim the lights. This is really important because if we have too much bright light going on in the house, it's not going to allow our bodies to produce the melatonin that we need for sleep. So as the sun is setting, we want to mimic that inside our houses as well. So dimming those lights is going to be really, really important. Okay. So get those low. We also want to focus on deep breathing exercises. And this is great for sleep and of course for stress. Now it might sound really silly, but many of us actually don't know how to breathe properly. We are breathing with our shoulders and we're doing this. I think of my mother all the time when I'm just like, Mom, can you just like take a breath? And she goes like this. And I'm like, no, that's not taking a breath. Deep breathing comes from the belly. And when you inhale, you actually want to push your belly button out. And then when you exhale, you want to pull the belly button into the spine. Okay. So that is something to focus on. Breathing slowly, breathing deeply, really filling the belly, and then again, pushing the belly button to the spine when you exhale. You really want to be mindful and focus on like a healthy rhythm, slow. And you can also visualize while you're doing this as well. I visualize a lot lately of the beach and being somewhere warm. I live in Canada, and we're in spring right now, but I live in Ontario, and it's starting to get warm and the sun is starting to shine more, and oh my God, it's like giving me life. So I'm just like, I just want to go to the beach. That's really all I want. So I visualize the beach when I do my breathing exercises. And guys, this is a simple 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the afternoon, 5 minutes at night. I think we can all commit to that. Our nervous system needs that, especially after these past, 2.5 years, right? Our nervous systems are really taking a hit. So let's do all that we can to really support it. Okay, next is to expose yourself to natural light. This is really important, as they all are. And it might sound counterintuitive. Like, why would, what does the sunlight have to do with my sleep? And the sun actually helps to set our circadian rhythm. And so our cortisol will naturally rise in the morning as the sun comes up because it allows us to rise and wake up and have energy. And then our cortisol will naturally drop at the end of the day when the sun goes down. And we want to mimic that by actually exposing our eyes to the sun. Even if it's a rainy day, a cloudy day, a snowy day, whatever it is, you have to get outside and you have to get that sun exposure. It actually helps to set your melatonin, your sleepy hormone. And it also helps to regulate your serotonin, which is your happy hormone. So it's very important. And many people are waking up in the morning, going into the kitchen, making their coffee, getting in their car, driving to work, going to an office. They're sitting under artificial sunlight, going back in the car, driving home, and they do not go outside once. So we need to break this habit. And if you are in this cycle right now, we really got to break that cycle. A quick 5 to 10 minutes in the morning outside or an afternoon break at lunch. We have to get that sunlight. It's really ideal. And it's extra beneficial if you can do it right first thing in the morning when you wake up. So, we have a dog, so she's up and waking you up, wanting to go for her walk first thing in the morning. So she gets us up and out of the house and we get exposure to that natural light, which is really important. And then of course, CBD oil, one of my favorites. I take this every night before bed. And there's been some amazing studies and reports on how CBD can help users with better sleep quality. It can actually help with sleep quality and the duration of your sleep, which is really fantastic. And it's also very anti-inflammatory. There are so many amazing compounds in CBD that are great for reducing inflammation. And it's also even great like post-exercise. So if you have, because exercise is a stressor to the body. And it's really important. It's one of the tips I really should have added in here to really improve sleep and support stress is to move your body and to have exercise. And that doesn't mean like you have to do weight training or a high intensity class. In fact, if you are adrenally depleted and exhausted, that's probably the last thing you need to do. Just walking is beneficial. But if you are, at a level where you're training a little bit harder, that exercise is stressful to the body. It does cause it can cause some inflammation. So having something like CBD oil post-workout can actually be very beneficial. And then it's stress reducing, which is fantastic. There was a study, a research study at the university in Brazil in 2017 that highlighted the benefits of CBD for decreasing stress and supporting, social anxiety in their patients. So we are seeing a lot of amazing research come out about CBD oil. And the great thing is that it's accessible and it's so easy to use. And it is 100% a part of my nightly routine. And I get a lot of questions around like, well, what do we use and how do we use it? So I want to answer some of those questions for you. Because there's like, let's face it, there's been so many companies, so much CBD on the market now, and it can be confusing. Like, what are you really looking for? And there's some really key things that you want to be paying attention to. So number one, ideally USDA certified organic. That's going to be really important when it comes to choosing a CBD oil. Also, unfiltered. This means that the oil may actually look cloudy, and that is okay. It is a real representation that it contains all those amazing terpenes and those amazing compounds in there that we actually want, that's beneficial for sleep and anxiety and for stress and for inflammation. So we really ideally want to look for something that is unfiltered. And then also transparency. This is key, again, with so many companies that are out there on the market. Can we actually look at their lab results? Are they showing what, heavy metals have been tested? Are they showing the level of terpenes and all the other therapeutic compounds that are in the oil? These are things that we want to look at. And with Eaton Hemp, they are fully transparent And that is really important. And you can scan, the QR codes on the bottles and actually look this up like in real time, which is really amazing. Some other questions that I always get is the big one, am I going to get high from taking it, right? And no, you are not going to get high. Eat and Hemp is a full spectrum CBD, and as opposed to a broad spectrum, so that you are actually getting the full profile of all those cannabinoids and those terpenes the way that nature intended it. So because it's full spectrum, you are going to have like the tiniest amount of THC present, but it's not in any sort of way enough that's going to get you high on any sort of level. So that's probably the biggest question that I get. I give CBD oil to my mom. I have her on the extra strength, and for the longest time she was in this mindset that like, oh my God, I'm going to take this and I'm going to be high. It's like, no, mom, no, you're not. So again, the full spectrum is important because you get all those cannabinoids and the terpenes, and it's like eating an orange and getting the natural vitamin C from that orange versus taking the synthetic supplement. Right. And that's how I want you to think about full spectrum, is that you're actually getting the real source versus it, all being filtered out, and broad spectrum, where you're actually going to miss a lot of those amazing anti-inflammatory compounds. And then how do you take it? How much should I take? This is really going to be your personal preference. For me, I take the whole dropper. I squeeze the oil like right under my tongue, and I let it sit for about 60 to 90 seconds. I just let it sit there right under my tongue, and then I might take like a sip of my tea or my water. And I actually did start with a full dropper. I use the extra strength CBD oil from Eat and Hemp, and I started with the full dropper. Now, it is advised to go low and slow. So you can start with half of a dropper or even a quarter if you find that you are like really sensitive to things. So just start low and slow, and you can totally work your way up. And then when you should actually take it. So for me, I personally like to take it about 30 minutes before I go to bed. And another thing that, I have found really helpful over the years with CBD oil is taking it during my luteal phase, especially. So those like 2 weeks leading up to my period, I will take maybe a little bit extra CBD oil, especially if I'm feeling a bit anxious or I have some premenstrual cramps coming on. And this is actually why I shared here an image of the CBD Super Salve, because this is like life and I love this product. And if you have menstrual cramps, you can just literally roll it onto your stomach, and it's fantastic. It works so well. And also if you are at like the computer and you're hunched over a lot, which I often am, I'm trying to be more conscious of using my stand-up desk, but I will use the salve, and I will like just rub it onto the back of my shoulders and my neck. And it just works really, really well. And so I love this product a lot. And so in terms of when you should take it, if you want to take it before bed because you really are looking for some support for sleep, that is what's really important for me, is sleep. Because I mentioned this very early before when we started tonight, is that if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. And sleep is so essential to that healing process and reducing inflammation in the body and balancing our hormones, supporting brain health and brain function and heart health. We really need that good quality sleep. And I know when I had my initial diagnosis of autoimmune Hashimoto's back in 2017, my sleep was brutal. I just couldn't sleep, right? I was adrenally burnt out. My thyroid was tanked, and both of those impact your sleep. And so for me, it was just making sleep a priority, and doing that has just improved my health dramatically. And I see it all the time with our clients. And so this is why I use CBD, because it's part of my nightly routine and it works for me. It works really, really well. And another thing that I really like to use at nighttime too is magnesium. So these are my like ride or dies, my magnesium biglycinate and my CBD oil. Magnesium is so fantastic because it actually helps with detoxification. It calms the nervous system. It's great for muscle aches and spasms. So if you find you are having, what is it like your calves tensing up, or restless leg syndrome, magnesium can be really helpful for that. And it can really be great for sleep as well, because again, it's really calming the nervous system. It's great for the heart. It's great for migraines and headaches. Like, it just does so many things in the body. So those are my two go-tos when it comes to optimizing and supporting my sleep, and ultimately also supporting my stress as well. Supporting my sleep means I get to support my stress, and supporting stress support and having these tools means I'm also optimizing my sleep as well. Lori, yes, I take magnesium too. That's great. It really is fantastic. And I think that's it, guys. So if you have any questions, let me know. There is an awesome discount for the next 72 hours over at Eat and Hemp. Use the coupon code SAM40 to save 40% off. And again, it's going to be available for the next 72 hours. If you guys haven't given the products a try, I definitely encourage you to do so. If you've been experiencing any of those symptoms that I've been, diving into tonight, it's really going to be great to help you through that and help you, minimize a lot of those symptoms that are showing up for you. And again, really getting in that good quality sleep, because the more you can do that and focus on that and make that a priority, the better you are overall going to feel. And there's nothing better than being able to wake up in the morning and actually feeling refreshed. So, really ask yourself, like, when is the last time that happened? When is the last time I woke up and felt super rested and refreshed and like so ready to start my day? And I know for so many of the women that we work with, like, the answer is they don't know. It's been a really, really long time. Carla, I need to get more information on CBD and dementia. Yeah. I wonder if Eat and Hemp has any resources or anything that they may be able to share with you. But that is a great question. How does it work shipping from the US? That's a great question. Finn, if you're here, that would be really great if you can answer that for us. I think there was a question in the Q&A, but I think I got cut off there. I didn't see that. Customs duty. Yeah, so I am in Canada, and I don't know, Finn, if like you guys are still shipping to Canada. Sometimes I know there can be a delay just because there's been like shipping delays everywhere, all over the world. And no need to worry about customs. Okay, yeah. So my last order was fine. Like I never have had any issues getting it here. And I always order like as much as I can at once so that I can have it for long term. But yeah, they shipped both to US and to Canada. So you should totally be cool with that. And what's the best way to determine which strength is ideal? Extra strength or regular? Yeah, I mean, again, it's going to be a personal preference. So if you are, I think, thinking about like symptomatically what is really showing up for you and like what is your biggest issue? If your biggest issue is sleep, maybe the extra strength, but just start slow. Just start slow and low. You don't have to take the full dropper, especially if you find you might be sensitive to some things. I went full in and I just did the whole dropper, and that worked really well for me. So, again, if you're finding a lot of these symptoms really showing up for you, and especially the sleep, I would just say go for the extra strength, but just start really, really slow. Oh, Lori. Okay. Yeah. Definitely reach out to Eat and Hemp for that. Jason, my issue is getting to sleep. Once I'm asleep, I'm out for the night. My evening consists of full dropper of CBD, magnesium, cup of skullcap tea, holy basil, and inositol. Wow. Okay. Those are all really, really great. So I would look at things like the other stuff that I mentioned. The blue light and being conscious of blue light. If you're on a computer screen all day, maybe you actually need to get some blue light blocking glasses, and so that you can minimize that exposure, because it could just be really triggering for you. I would also look at things like sunlight and how much sunlight exposure you're actually getting, and dimming the lights in your house is going to be really important as well. And also your evening meal. I don't know what it is you're eating at night, but maybe a little bit of good like fiber carbohydrates could be really beneficial for you as well. So it sounds like you've got all of the, the supplements and that on point really, really well, which is great. But getting to sleep, maybe you just need, it's more maybe the lifestyle things to address there and look at that. So I really hope that that might help. Yes. And Eat and Hemp said for sleep, they do recommend the extra strength. I personally do use that one. And, again, for my ladies here who are potentially dealing with, any like PMS cramps or headaches or migraines or anything like that, the salve is really, really amazing. So I absolutely love it and always like to use it in my luteal phase leading up to my period. I almost like to use it as like I'm trying to get ahead of those cramps just in case they do show up. I want to get ahead of it. And so I actually use it like, before the symptoms really start to show up. Jason, I also crave salt, not sugar. Oh, that's adrenals, my friend. Yes, that is adrenals for sure. Craving salt is such a sign that you really need some adrenal support. So maybe that's another thing to start looking at is what are you doing supplementally to actually support adrenals? Like that might be the next thing. And I actually do have some great tips and whatnot on my Instagram or on our website and the podcast. We have so much on the podcast that you can always dive into. But salt is a classic adrenal depletion. Yes, I've been there. And I remember like I couldn't stop eating pretzels because of the salt. I will share here some places you can connect with me. So over on Instagram, that's where I love to hang out at Holistic Wellness Foodie. My podcast, Wellness Switch Podcast. You can always tune in there. And then my website, you can always check us out there at holisticwellness.ca. How common is it to have an opposite reaction? I felt panicky after taking. Also, can CBD use for people with heart arrhythmias? So heart arrhythmias, I'm not too sure. It's not stimulating. So I mean, I wouldn't think, but it's still something I would want to be conscious of and something that, maybe you have a conversation with your doctor around. But the opposite reaction, I wonder if it just could be dosing. So you might just have to play around with a little bit of dosing first. And maybe you just need like a much smaller dose than the typical dose. So that might be something to play around with. Anything else? I'd love to hear if there's anything you guys are going to start doing. Does someone want to be bold and actually share that maybe they are going to cut out the alcohol or, they are going to stop with gluten and wheat? Like, I'd love to know if there's, one takeaway maybe you are going to start implementing, in the next week. If you want to share that with me, that would be great. Just let me know in the comments. I'm just going to take a quick sip of my water. That time went by so fast. I never know how an entire hour just goes by. All right. I don't see anything else coming through, but I'll just give it another minute or two. And if you guys want to share with me anything that you're going to take on, or maybe you're not sharing because you're like, no, I'm not making these changes just yet. I get it. Change can definitely be hard for sure. I need to do better with the junk light. Yes. Okay, Sarah, that's awesome. Yeah, really, really great. So, simple things are like, you could use the blue blocking glasses. I do have mine. I don't have them here with me right now. But the blue blocking glasses could be really, really helpful for you. And, just making like a pact with yourself that you're not going to have electronics in the bedroom or you're not going to use them late at night. I often do not know where my phone is on the weekends. It feels really great to disconnect from it. And also at night, like especially right now, after I get off, computer goes away, phone goes away in the kitchen, and I won't look at it again until the morning. Alana, getting outside in the morning, that's so great. It really does make a big difference. I put on a meditation before bed on my iPad. Ooh, what else can I do? Okay, so that's where I might say that's the exception. Just don't look at it. So you have to put your iPad in airplane mode. So like download it, if you can download it off of the internet. And so it's on your device, and make sure it's in airplane mode and like you aren't actually looking at the screen. So listening to it, but not actually looking at the screen. And then the other thing is, maybe you try a different meditation. Maybe you just don't do a meditation that's actually on the iPad or any sort of device. I know for me that I was using some really cool meditation apps, and I wanted to bring them to bed. But the times that I did try to do that, I was just getting distracted. I'd be like, oh, right, there's this thing that I wanted to look up. There's this thing I want to order on Amazon. And like, I would just get distracted because my phone was right there. Like, it was just too easy to do it. So I'm just like, no. So if you feel like you're going to be pulled in, maybe not. Maybe you just want to sit and kind of do some deep breathing exercises and see how that works without the iPad. I'm guilty of the blue light exposure, so it's time to change that. Okay, great. I'm happy to hear that. Irma, cutting out gluten, and I already started my CBD. Great. I'm so happy. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for sharing that. I really, really appreciate it. I'd love to hear from you all. You can connect with me over on Instagram. Let me know how, how these strategies are working for you. If you have CBD questions, by all means, if I can answer them, I will try to. You can definitely send them over to me on Instagram, and take advantage of the 40% off for the next 72 hours. The code again is SAM40. I'll put it up there. And thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing your evening with me. I really appreciate you being here. And I'm sure you will hear from Eat and Hemp, and they'll send the recording out, and you could always rewatch it. All right. Thanks again for your time. Have a great night, everybody. It was a pleasure, and we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.